Hello everyone, my name is Taiwa Jare. I'll be taking you guys on introduction to OOP in PHP. I repeat myself, introduction to OOP in PHP. Now, without wasting much of our time, let's go straight into it. What is OOP? OOP stands for Object-Oriented Programming. Object-Oriented Programming. Now, this is a concept of programming which assumes everything as an object and implements a software using different objects. Now, let's look at this together. We are trying to assume everything as what? As an object, and also use those objects to implement what? Our software. Now, let's take this for an example. We have, we're trying to, okay, we have an application, and we have the admin side, we have the what? Client side. Now, all these guys are objects. We've assumed them as an object, but under what? A user. Which type of user? One is what? An admin. One is what? A user, like a client. So now we can therefore say that we've taken what? All those admin and what? User are what? All those admin and the admin and clients are what? Users. So now we can therefore say that we've taken what? The admin and the client as an object created from what? A user, because a user will actually use what? An application. So let's just try to assume everything as what? As an object, and implement them using what? Different what? Object. We implement them using different objects in our what? Software. Now, what is procedural programming? It's about writing procedures or functions that performs operations on the data. Okay, now, I've said something about OOP. What is procedural programming? Something that actually what? Rewriting procedures or function that performs what? Operations on the data. Now, for example, I used an option to log in. Now, I want to log in a user. What do I have to do? I have to write a function that will take care of what? That particular scenario. That will take care, that will handle what? Handle the login. That will, okay, check their password, check their mail, check all what they want to do, all their credentials. If it's what we have in our database or in a file like you guys learned, we will allow them into the application. So now we are writing functions, we're writing procedural language, we're writing procedures, we're writing functions that will perform a particular task. That's what we call what? Procedural what? Program. Now, why is OOP better? Sure, OOP is better, far better than writing was procedural programming. But procedural programming is quite easy, but OOP is what? Better. Now, it's faster and easier to what? Execute. OOP is faster and easier to what? Execute. It provides a clear structure for the program. Now, you're writing a language that is clear. You're writing a language, a code that anybody, user A can read it, user B can read it, user C can also read it. Okay, now you are working for a company now, you write a particular software, you leave the company, the next person they're going to employ will surely be able to read it if you use OPY, because it's easier to read, it has clear structure for what? The program, for your programs. Now, next one is what? Makes your code easier to maintain, modify, and debug. Makes your code easier to maintain, modify, and debug. Now, for example, I'm having an error in my code, and okay, I'm having an error when they're trying to order a product. I know that, okay, this error will be coming from where? The other class, because I've created a structure, an order structure that controls maybe their payment, that controls maybe they're adding to cart, that controls maybe different scenarios under what? Under that order structure. So I know that, okay, this error will be coming from what? The order class. So let me go there. Let me go, you know where to go to, straight to the point, and what? Fix your what? The error. It's very easy to debug, very easy to maintain, and what? And modify. Now let's go to the next slide. Now I'm going to use this to explain what OOP is, like a structure. Now this is like a structure of OOP. For example, I go to an online store like Jumia. I want to buy clothes, I want to buy shoes, I want to buy phones, I want to buy different things. You know, on Jumia, they actually sell different products. Now, all these are what? Products. All these what are products. Now, if you look at, there are two different things that is always confusing: a class and what? An object. Now, I have a product. A product can be a phone, can be shoe, can be a drive. A product can be anything sellable. Yeah, can be anything sellable. But all these are still under what? That class product. All these are still under what? Product. Okay, now let's look at this. I have a product. This product has what? Name, has type, has price, has if it's available or not. Like for example, you go to a shopping mall, you okay, I want to buy I want to buy a face cap, and yeah, the face cap is not available. Either it's available or what, or not. If it's used or what, not used. In Nigeria, yeah, they call used bend down select or any other, and I don't know what, or tokumbo. Yeah. So everything is still what? Under a product. Now, out of this product, I can bring out a phone. I can bring out shoes. I can bring out what? Drive. Now, all these names, type, price, and if it's available or not, if it's used or not, are what we call the properties. And what we call what? The properties. What that particular class, the properties that it has. Now, for example, you as a user, which property do you have? Okay, I have eyes, I have leg. Every human being will have eyes, or every animal. Let's use an example, animal. We human beings are animal. Higher animals, we okay, even the chimpanzee, they all have eyes, we have leg, we have hands, we have nose. All these are what? Property of a what? Particular what? Class. So now, if back to this, we see that what? We have a product. All these phones, shoes, and drive are brought out from what? This product. Now, what do you see? Let's go to the phone. ROM are only what's unique to what? The phone. Why? Because it's only a unique property to what? That particular what? Product. And the product we're talking about is what? Phone. ROM, version, brand. You can only see these properties in what? A phone. Now, if we've put ROM in this what? Product class, what will have happened? We've been having errors because you have to set the RAM or ROM for shoe. And is it possible for shoe to have RAM or ROM? No. So there's what we call properties. All these are properties for what? This is the parent class, and what? All these shoes, phones, drive are what we call what? The child class. So we brought out all these from what? A product. Product was class. Now what are we doing in this place? We're trying to like assume everything as what? An object. Try to assume everything as an object. Now, when we continue class, you see how we implement this and try to what? Put it down in form of code. Now, let's look at the second example. We have what? Car. There are different types of cars. A car will always have a property. Either it's 4-wheel or 10-wheel or V6 or V8. That's based on the engine, or they have their different properties. But we have a car class. We can create an object from that car. What is an object? Something like something created from a class. We can create. Now that's what we did here. Lexus is an object. Everybody knows Lexus. Lexus car is an object, and most people. Now let's look at this together. If I say a car on the road, okay, this is a car. Yes. But which type of car is it? Lexus. We've brought out that, or we've created an object, a car object from what? That class name, car. So now let's go to the next slide, and let's see what we'll be talking about. Like, take note, this is actually introduction to OOP. We're not going deep into OOP. So we just need to like know the most important things and what? Implement them. Now, basic important concepts in what? OOP. You have the class and object. We have the properties and methods. We have the constructors and destructors. We have visibility. Now, I call it visibility. Why? Because how visible you are to other files, to your environment. How visible you are to your environment. Some people call it scope. Some call it what? Access modifiers. how you can access them, how you can access maybe a property or a method. That's what we'll be talking about there. We have our parent class and child class. I touched that when I was trying to explain that structure. And we have what? Inheritance. We have what? Inheritance. Now, let's go to the next one and check, look at what is a class. A class is a template for an object. A class is a template for an object, and an object is an instance of a class. Let me read it again. A class is a template for an object, and what? An object is an instance of what? A class. Now, look at what I said that time. Look, let's go back to this and look at this. Now, phone is an instance, is a template of what? Product class. Now, Lexus is a template for what? Car. There are different templates. What I mean by template, how it looks. Which features does it have? Like, which type of car is this? There are different templates. Is that so we can therefore say that an object is a template for what? A class. And what? A class is a template for an object. And what? An object is an instance of what? A class. An object is an instance of what? A class. Now, a class is defined by using the class keyword. So let's look at how we define a class. Now, we said a class is defined by using a class keyword. So let's say class. And what? We name our class, and which name? Let's set up this structure we have. Let's call it product class. Sorry. Okay, product class. Yeah. So now we've declared a class like this. We've declared what? The product what? Class. Now, if I run this code, nothing is happening. Why? Because we're not doing anything in this class. Even though we're doing anything, we need to like create an object. Like we learned in the last class that a function will not a function will not run if it's not called. Now, a class is just like you're setting up a template. You're setting up a template for people to use. You're setting up a standard for people to use. So now, if you set up a class, nothing will happen until we create an object from that class. So now, let's go to the next thing. We have what is an object? An object. So now, we said that class are nothing without what? Object. We can create multiple objects from what? A class. Each object has all the properties and methods defined in the class, but they will have different what? Property values. Now, okay, now let's go back to this and let's see something. Now, he said a class, an object is what? Created from what? A class. An object is what? Created from a what? A class. Now look at phone. If I create phone from product, a phone will have a name, maybe Techno or Infinix. A phone will have a type, maybe Android or iOS. A phone will have a price, maybe $10 or $200. A phone will be available or not. Maybe I'm on a shopping site, or I go to a shopping mall to get my phone. Either it's available or not. And a phone will either be used or not. Yeah. So some people buy second-hand phones, some people buy UK used Techno iPhones, but all these words are what? I've created what? An object from what? This product class. And I'm able to use the property. We'll talk about that later. I'm able to use what? The property. So now, you say what? Classes are nothing without objects. We can create multiple objects from what? A class. Now, what do we do here? All these are objects. Phone, shoes, drives are objects. And they are created from what? A product class. They are created from what? Products. Now, I'm selling a product to you. What will make me buy that product is what? The type of object it is. You can't just tell me, okay, I want to sell a product to you. What's that product you're selling to me? That's it. That's that question that object will answer. What is that product you're selling to me? Is it a phone? Is it a shoe? Is it a Lexus Jeep? Is it a Volvo? But you're selling a product. So now, let's see how we set up this. Now, to create an object from a class, it's very simple. Now, we have a product. Let's say we want to create a shoe from this product. Let's call it shoe. let's call it shoe, is equal to what? New product. Now, I've created a product, new product. That means I'm creating a product, an object from what? This product class. But now it's not be doing anything. So now let's try doing something in this. Maybe try giving it a property. Now, okay, we said that what? Products have name, style, price, available, and used if as a product. Now, let's create that public, let's say price. Let's say, okay, name. Now, doing this, we're what? Declaring the properties. We're declaring what? The properties. So now we said what? Name, public what? Type. We have what? Price too. You also have what? If it's available or not. You also have what? If it's used or not. Now, all these are what we call what? Properties. We've declared the properties for what? This particular what? Product. So now, let's do something. We're going to create a function. Like I told you before in the last class that we have difference between what? Functions, predefined functions, and what? User-defined functions. Now, when you're stating a function in a class, it's called what? A method. Stating a function in a class is called what? A method. So now, if I'm declaring a function in this class, we call it what? We call it method. I'm creating a method. I'm declaring a method. So now let's declare a method. Maybe a method to what? Let's create a method to set name. We pass in the name that we're trying to set. And what? You say this dot what? Name is equals to what? Name. Now, we are seeing something strange. What are we seeing? This what? Keyword this. Now, what does this keyword this means? Now, look at what VS Code is giving us. Refers to the current object. Refers to what? The current object. Now, what am I doing here? I'm creating a new object. So now, I'm creating a new object from what? Which was? Class. So now, this means what? That current object I'm talking about, what is that current object? So I'm referring to that what? Current object. And in that current object, you have what? All these what? Properties. Yes or no? You have the name, type, price, available, or used. So I'm referring to that particular current object, and I'm what? Pointing towards what? The name. To set that name. Because now, yeah, the property is not set. It's possible that I can give it a default value. Maybe the name is what? Deja. Or something like that. Okay, let's say product. Let's say shoe. But now, I'm going into this object, going with that word keyword this object. I'm referring to that object, and also pointing towards what? The name. Also pointing towards what? The name. So now, and I'm setting what the name to what? Give us what? This. So now, if I want to create an object, I've created the object like this. Now, I want to set this method. What's this method? I want to what? Set the name. So how will I do that? Usually do that by calling that object shoe to what? Set what? Set what? Name. Now, what have we done here? We're pointing towards what? A method. What is that method doing? To what? What is that function doing? To what? To set the name of that property. Maybe to set the name of that property to bag. We'll pass in the name bag. So now, what will happen here? What will happen here? This will go into this object. This line 19 will create an object from this template. What is the template? The product class. It will create an object from that, and what? Line 20 will what do? From that object that I've already created, set what? The name. Now you are calling a function like this. You are calling a function in that template to what? Set the name of that object. So now if you run this code, let's run this code. Sorry. Okay, yeah. So let's run this code. What is happening? We're not seeing anything. Why? Because we're not seeing anything because we're just setting the name. We're not getting the name. We're not doing something to bring out the name of that object. We're just setting the name. So now let's create another method to what? Get that particular name. So now, okay, we don't need this. To get that particular name, what is that? What are we going to do? We're just going to what? Return what? This. Like I told you, this means I'm referring to that particular object, pointing towards what? The name. Return what? This what? Name. This means what? That object I'm referring to. Return that name of that object. So now, how are we going to get this out? To get this out, I'll call the object shoe dot what? Get me the name of this shoe. So now, we can save this in a variable. Let's say shoe name. Shoe name to be equal to what? This. Now let's echo this to show the shoe name. So now let's run this. What are we seeing? We're seeing what? Bag. Why? Because yeah, I created an object from what? This template. And also did something to set the name of that object. Now, like I told you, a class is just like a template. So you have to create something from that template. You have to create something from that. Okay, now everybody knows car is car. Car is car. But what the likes of Lexus, the likes of Toyota, the likes of Benz are doing, they are creating what? That object from the template car that they've given to them. They are creating that object from that template and they are setting their name. They are giving it their name. It's just like, okay, now try to think. I'm giving it a name. I'm setting the name of that object to be maybe Venza, Toyota Venza. So that's what I just did there. I created the object, I set the name, and I wrote a method to get that name. Okay, now let's look at this. Let's go back to that car scenario. If I'm in what? I'm okay, the owner of Benz, and I just say, okay, this car, I'm going to like name it Benz, blah blah blah. Now, if I don't put Benz, blah 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 on the back, at the back of the car or at the front of the car, how will I know it's Benz, blah blah blah? That's what happened that time. We set the name of that object, but we didn't get the name. So now I wrote a method to what? Get the name. Now look at all this we have done here. We have assumed, we have imagined a car as an object that we are creating objects from that particular what? Template. A car as a template that we're creating what? Different what? Objects. Now in this scenario, we are creating what? Different objects from that particular product. Is it shoe? Is it bag? etc. So now let's move forward and go to the next thing. Now we said we were going to talk about constructor. What is a constructor? A constructor allows you to initialize an object properties upon creation of the object. Initialize an object property upon creation of the object. If you create a construct function, PHP automatically call this function when you create an object from that class. Now, look at what this is trying to tell us. PHP will run that function, that constructor function for us to what? To set, when we're trying to create the object, what we need to do is what? To send in what? The property, that function. It will help us run that function and what? Set it for us. So now let's look at how it works. Now, let's have a class car. Now to the first letter with what? A capital letter. So now we create a class car. What is this doing? This is what? Instead we're talking about constructor. We're going to create a constructor in this template so that when we create an object from that template, that constructor runs and sets the property. Now let's use this example. This car has what? Name. Let's set all the properties. Let's declare the properties. We have name. What again? Public. Type. What again? Public. Price. What again? And year. Now, what will a constructor do? A constructor will help us set all these properties. So now, declaring a constructor property, what do we need to do? We declare a public function underscore what? Construct. Now, this will help us construct all the properties. So now we're going to do this. How are we going to do this? How are we going to do this? Okay, I think I need to be very fast now. How are we going to do this? We're going to set up this constructor and to set what? The properties. So now, how are we going to do this? We're passing all these names, all these properties into this what? Constructor and set them. Now, what are we doing here? We're setting them one by, if we're going to do this, we'll have to set for every property, do the same thing. Function set underscore what? Type. Type. And what? This dot what? Type. To be equal to what? The type we're giving it. No, but a constructor will help us do this. So now we're going to do that. We pass in this. We pass in all the properties we want to set. That's name. What again? Type. What again? Price. What again? Year. And what? Set it. Referring to this object, what? Set the name to be equal to what? The name we are getting. This object pointing towards the type, set the type to be equal to what? Type. This object, that particular object you are trying to create, set the price equals to what? Price that we're giving it. And what? This, the year of the car we're trying to set it to be what? The year we're giving it. Now, what has this done for us? This will help us what? Set all the properties. Now, let's just create a method function to what? Let's create a method to get one of the property. Let's say price, to get price. Sorry, my network. I'm joining. Oh, sorry. Can you see me? Can you see my screen now? Okay, now we're creating an object from that. The type is V8. Let's say the price is 500, maybe 2020 model. Now, from this what car, let's try getting the name. Echo what? Lexus dot what? Get what? Price. Okay, we set price. Get price. So now what would this do for us? It will print out what? The price. Well, because we've created an object from what? That particular what? Template. Now let's test and see. Refresh this. We have what? 500. Why? Because what? We've created an object. This constructor has helped us to what? Set what? The properties. Now, what's the main benefit for this constructor? It helps us what? Reduce the number of codes you write. Now, try to imagine a template is having 1,000 properties. For all the properties here, we have to what? Create a method to set their value. You have to create a method to set their value for that particular property. So now that the constructor is helping us what with that. So now next thing we need to talk about is what we call a destructor. A destructor is called when the object is destructed or the script is stopped or exited. You create a destructor using that keyword, using that. PHP will automatically call the function at the end of the script. Now look at the difference. One, the constructor will be called at the beginning of the script. The destructor will be called at the end of what? The script. So now to create a destructor is the same way we created what? This constructor. Now let's look at this. Yeah. So we create a public function underscore what? Destruct. Now, what would this do? Let's say, okay, at the end of this, echo this car object. Let's pass in the name. This, okay. Let's say this dot. Okay. This dot. Let's say name has been. At the end of creating out that object, what will happen? It will run this destruct function. So now let's see this. What are we seeing? After, okay, let me comment this part out. Okay, and put a BR tag here. tr tag. Yeah. So now let's refresh the page. Okay, now, so now, what happened? It created that function is what? Set the property using the what? Construction method, destruction function. So this particular object has been what? We ran an echo to a template that's done that for us. Now, just 550 has been what? Created. We have, people call it, some people also call it scope. Now, if you see in my course that I've been writing public, what is public? Private, protected. Now, properties and methods can have access modifiers. What do I mean by access modifiers? The way it can be accessed, which control where they can be what? Accessed. Now, we have the private, we have the public, we have the protected. Now, the property or method, the private, what does private access modifier do? This property or method can be accessed from everywhere. Sorry, this should be public. Public, and this should be protected, and this should be private. Now, the public access modifier, this property or method with public can be accessed from everywhere. This is default. Now, let's look at this. When I was trying to create this method to get price, what did I do? I was able to call that method outside that class. Why? Because by default, without adding public self, by default, creating a method or a function in a class is what? Public. Without adding what? Either is protected or private. Declaring a function, maybe function to get yeah. This function is what? Public by default. So now, and why? Because it's a function that can be accessed anywhere, either inside or outside that class. Now, what we're able to do, we're able to access this function or method outside that class. Now, let's go to the next one. The next one says what? Protected. This property or method can be accessed within the class and by class derived from that class. Now, we call a property or a method protected. It's only objects that are inheriting from that particular class or template that can have access to that property. Okay, now look at, let me use the product example I used here. Phone is inheriting some properties from what? This product. Why? Because phone was derived from what? The class was product. Yes or no? So now, phone can use this property name. Yeah, sure, a phone will have a name. Phone can use the property type and all this. So now, the protected function is a property or method that can be accessed within the class and by classes derived from that class. Now, let's try this. Let's try this. Now, I make this function to get price protected. With that, VS Code is already giving us that error that what? Undefined method get price. Why? Because it's not seeing that get price. It's not having what? It's not having access to the what? That get price method. Because I'm trying to call that method outside that class, which is not possible. I'm trying to call that method outside that class, which is not possible. Why? Because I've already made that method protected. Protected means only you and my household. As simple as that. Only you, only me, only me and my household. As simple as that. So now I cannot have access to that outside. So now let's look at this now. Let's create a function like I said, creating a function, creating a function without using any access modifier is what? Public by default. So to get to print price. Now what do I do here? Let's say call the function and call the function inside that class, because the protected access modifier has showed it is only for me and my household, people inheriting from what? That class. So now if I run this, let's say return price, or let's just say echo price. Let's see what this, okay, now let me call the function. Now I can call print class from here, or print price, sorry. So yeah, I run this function. Echo price. Okay, let's return this. Oh, I see. Okay, so yeah, sorry, then yeah, I refresh this. I'm having what? 500. This Lexus, this is for the what? Destruction function. So now what am I having here? I'm having what? Only what? 500. Because I created a function that is can be accessed outside, which is what? A public function. But this protected, like I said before, only simply means me and my household. For me and for people for classes or objects that are inheriting from that particular object or class. So now, next thing is what? Private. Private, this property or method can only be accessed within what? The class. Now, I create a private method or a property. It can only be accessed within that class that it was declared. Now, if this was to be private, I can still access what? That particular class, which the function or method, that's it. And if I save this and I run this, still have the same thing. So now let's move forward. And last thing for the day is what? Inheritance. Simply means when a class is derived from another class. Like now, sorry, I'm using that example. I inherit some things from my dad is assets. I will inherit some things. So try to think in that way. I'm trying to inherit something from what? A particular thing. So I'm trying to inherit something from a template, which from what? Another class. Therefore, that the protected properties and methods are only for me and my household. Who are the households? the people that are inheriting from that what? From me. The people that are inheriting from that class. So from the parent class, in addition, have its own property and method. Like now, look at this. Look at this. Phone is inheriting from what? Name, type, price, available, and used. This phone, if it's what? Only if it is what? I should have access to this property first class. So now, phone can have access to what? All these properties. And despite having access to all these properties, it can have access to his what? Own property. It can. So we want to have here now. We want to have here. Inherit from that class, we said what? We use the keyword what? Extent. From what? From what? Product. Now, this class extends what? Products. I'm inheriting from how we have access to all these properties. Yes. We have access to all these what? Properties. Now let's do something. Yes, let's create a method here. Function to let's say price of that shoe. Okay, let's use price to get. So now I return what? This dot price. Let's see what happens. Now look at something here. I'm not declaring a property here in this shoe price, but I have access to that price because what? I'm inheriting from that what? Particular product. I'm inheriting from what? That particular product. So now with that, we can create an object from that template shoe. Let's say we create an object. Let's say the object is what? Which shoe? Which shoe? Crocs. Sorry, my spelling. And new shoe. Now, new shoe. I've declared, I've created an object from that template, shoe. Now, I can also set the shoe because I have access to it. Properties, shoe dot what? Shoe dot set price. Okay. Get the price. Like I told you guys, you can simply use a constructor to do this. So now, because we are inheriting from that product, we will have access to that. So now look at this. Set price. We have access to it. Why? Because I'm inheriting from that particular what? Product. And product has a method to set its own price, to set that price. So now, how are we going to do? Let's pass in, let's say 500. 500. Now, I can run I can get the what? The price too by doing this. Echo shoe dot what? Get underscore price. And what would this give me? This should give me what? 500. Why? Because I set price. I've set the price of the shoe to be what? 500. The price of the shoe should be what? 500. And I've also what? Written a method to what? Get that shoe. Now, we have a class shoe. Because, don't say because we don't have a method to get the shoe. We don't have a method to get the shoe. That's why I don't have access to to set the price of the shoe. No. Because I'm inheriting from that product, I have access to what? To that method. To every method and property in that particular class you're inheriting from. As long as those classes, those methods and properties are what? Either private, either public or protected. So now, if I do this, I should get what? $500. Okay, I think I ran a variable shoe. Oh, sorry. I used Crocs. Okay, so now we have what? 500. Now the error we saw that time was what? I was trying to set a price of what? An undefined what? Object. Yeah, I defined what? Crocs as the object, and I'm using shoe. So it told me that, bro, you're trying to set a price of what it didn't define. So now I've been able to set the price because I have access to that what? Property, to all the properties and method, and I will also be able to what? Get the price, because I can also create my own method and also use them. You get? So now we've been able to talk about inheritance. Simply means deriving another class from what? A class. What I've done there is deriving the shoe class from what? From the class product, the parent class product. Now, the derived class is called what? The child class. The class that you derive that class from is what? Is what we call the parent class. So now, inheritance simply means when a class is derived from what? Another what? Class. And note, the derived class will always have what? Access to what? The public and the protected function or methods or properties in that what? Particular what? Class. So guys, we've been able to like touch OOP. Says or talk about the basic important things in OOP. The classes and objects, the properties, we said the classes are templates, an object is created from a template. We talked about the properties and methods. A class will have a property, And a class can also have a method. We talked about destructors and constructors. A constructor is a function that runs when an object is what? Called. Or when an object is created. A function that runs when an object is created. Now, and it's used what? To set the property of what? That particular what? Class. We talked about destructor, function run at the end of what? The class. We talked about visibility, as also known as assembly modifiers. How visible a method is or a property is, or how you can access that method or property. Like I told you, we talked about the private, protected, and public. Private, only for me and me, my team. Protected, for me and my household. The household means people that are inheriting from me. Why what? Public, anybody. I give it to the world. Anybody that can can call that method, anybody, is what we call what? The public. Is open to the public, can be accessed by the public. So now, we also talked about the parent class and the child class. Parent class and the child class, and we also talked about what? Inheritance. Inheritance. So now, thank you guys. We've been able to talk about OOP, and I hope you guys enjoyed the class. If you have any question, please kindly let me know. My Slack username is Deja. So God bless you and have a nice night. Thank you. Any question?